The dirt road outside Amarillo, Texas stretched endless under the blazing August sun. Dust devils swirling like warnings no one heeded. She staggered into the emergency bay of Panhandle Regional Hospital at 3:47 p.m. Barefoot and blistered, carrying a limp 5-year-old boy in her arms, while blood from her cracked feet painted red footprints across the linoleum. The ER doors whooshed open, nurses rushing forward as she collapsed to her knees, whispering through parched lips, "Please, my son, it's burning up," just as the doctor in charge turned the corner and froze when he saw her face. Because the woman carrying the dying child was the wife he thought he'd buried 8 years ago. The boy let out a weak cough, skin hot as coals, and the doctor, Dr. Elias Harlan, owner of the entire hospital, dropped his clipboard, voice breaking as he said, "Maria? God, Maria, is that really you?" She looked up through matted hair, eyes wide with exhaustion and something darker, and whispered back, "Elias. They're right behind us. Help him first." Before he could respond, the security feed pinged, 2 unmarked trucks pulling into the lot, men in black tactical gear piling out like shadows come to life. Quick, drop your city or country in the comments right now, because what this desperate mother revealed next didn't just shatter a doctor's perfect life. It unearthed a conspiracy that's already claimed hundreds in small towns across America. Keep watching if you dare. Everything truly began 12 years earlier, in a dusty trailer park on the outskirts of Lubbock, where Elias Harlan was just a resident at Texas Tech University Medical Center, burning the midnight oil on rotations that left him hollow-eyed and hungry for more. He met Maria Ruiz at a food bank drive, her flipping burgers for volunteers, him handing out canned goods with a smile that hid the student loans crushing his spine. They fell hard and fast, married in a courthouse ceremony with plastic rings and dreams of a clinic in the Panhandle, where they'd treat the forgotten folks insurance companies ignored. Maria got pregnant 6 months later, a boy they named Mateo after her grandfather, who crossed the border with nothing but hope. Elias worked doubles to save for the baby's room. Maria sewed curtains from thrift store sheets, singing Spanish lullabies to her belly under the Texas stars. Life felt like it was finally tilting their way until the night Maria went into labor 3 weeks early. Elias speeding her to the hospital, where complications turned the delivery room into a war zone. The doctors said placental abruption, blood everywhere, baby in distress. Elias scrubbed in, hands shaking as he assisted the OB. But Mateo's heart stopped on the table flatline, piercing the air like a knife. They handed Maria a stillborn son wrapped in blue, her screams echoing down the hall while Elias stood frozen, blaming himself for not seeing the signs sooner. Grief tore them apart like tissue paper. Maria blamed the hospital, the doctors, the world. Elias buried himself in work, climbing the ranks until he bought Panhandle Regional with investor money that smelled like oil and old favors. She left him 2 years later, no note, no forwarding address, just an empty closet and a divorce petition served by mail. Elias heard rumors she'd gone south to Mexico, chasing family roots or ghosts. He remarried a nurse named Carla, had 2 daughters, built an empire of clinics across West Texas that made him the king of rural healthcare. Years blurred into routine, board meetings in Dallas, ribbon cuttings in Amarillo. Nights alone in his McMansion overlooking the canyon, where he still kept Mateo's ultrasound photos in his wallet. He told himself Maria was a closed chapter, a scar that only ached on rainy days. Until that August afternoon when the ER nurse paged him for a consult on a pediatric fever case, and he walked in to find his dead past staring back. Maria lay on the gurney now, for dripping fluids, while nurses swarmed the boy Mateo, hooking him to monitors that beeped frantic warnings. Temperature 105, dehydration severe, signs of sepsis. Elias ordered antibiotics stat, fluids wide open, his voice steady but hands trembling as he examined the child who looked exactly like the photos of himself at 5. Maria grabbed his sleeve, pulling him close. "He's ours, Elias. The real Mateo." They switched him at birth, took our healthy boy and gave us a dead one." He laughed at first, called it delirium from the heat, but her eyes were clear as prairie sky. She told him about the miles she'd walked from a hidden compound near the border. Carrying Mateo on her back after he fell ill with what she thought was just a cold but turned into something vicious. They were the cartel doctors who'd raised him as their own, part of a program stealing babies from hospitals to train as future mules or worse. Elias stepped back, head spinning. Panhandle Regional had ties to border clinics partnerships for migrant care funded by federal grants. He'd signed the papers himself, never questioning the low infant mortality stats or the anonymous donors who kept the lights on. Maria whispered more. She'd been kidnapped the night she left him, drugged and dragged south after stumbling onto records at his old hospital showing swapped babies, falsified deaths. The security alarm blared, then intruders in the parking garage. Elias hit the lockdown button, sealing the ER, while nurses wheeled Mateo to isolation. Maria rose despite the pain, grabbing a scalpel from the tray. "They're here for him. For us, you have to believe me now." Gunmen breached the lobby doors minutes later, automatic weapons barking as hospital security returned fire. Elias dragged Maria behind a desk, heart pounding like it hadn't since residency, while screams filled the halls. He pulled his phone, dialed 911, but the line was dead jammers. Maria said, "Standard for cartel cleanups." Flashbacks hit him hard. The investor meetings in El Paso, handshakes with men in tailored suits who spoke of community health initiatives but smelled of gun oil. One name stood out: Dr. Victor Santos, head of the border program, the man who'd helped Elias buy the hospital with loans that never came due. Maria confirmed it. Santos ran the baby ring, stealing infants from poor mothers, faking deaths, selling them to cartels or black market adoptions. The boy Mateo cried out from the next room, fever spiking again despite the meds. Elias burst in, adjusted the 4, then turned to the computer terminal and hacked his own system using admin codes he'd never shared. Files flooded the screen. Hundreds of stillbirths over 10 years. DNA mismatches buried in audits. Wire transfers to offshore accounts linked to Santos. A bullet shattered the window. Elias tackled Maria to the floor as glass rained down. 2 gunmen kicked in the door, faces masked, shouting in Spanish for the woman and child. Elias grabbed a defibrillator paddle, charged it high, and shocked the first one square in the chest, man, down twitching. Maria stabbed the second with the scalpel, blood spraying as he fell. They grabbed Mateo, unhooked just enough tubes to move, and ran for the service elevator, Elias's private access to the roof helipad. Sirens wailed outside now, local PD finally breaking through the jam. On the roof, wind whipping from an incoming chopper, Santos's private bird, landing with armed men jumping out. Elias shielded his family. The word hit like lightning, pulling a flare gun from the emergency kit. He fired once, igniting the chopper's fuel line in a fireball that lit the Texas sky. FBI swarmed hours later, tipped off by Elias's frantic email blast from the terminal Levery file attached, every name exposed. Santos was arrested at the border, his empire crumbling as whistleblowers came forward. Hundreds of families reunited, graves exhumed. DNA tests rewriting histories across the Southwest. Today, Mateo is 13, playing Little League in Amarillo under the same sun that nearly killed him. Maria and Elias remarried quietly, Carla understanding when the truth came out, divorce papers signed with grace. The hospital bears a new name, Mateo Ruiz Harlan Pediatric Center, treating kids, no questions asked. Some nights, Elias stands on the roof watching the stars, wondering how many more babies are out there in the dark. Maria joins him, hand in his, whispering the lullabies she sang for years in secret. And Mateo sleeps below, dreaming of miles he never walked, carried by a mother who refused to let go. Walked miles don't break the strong. They forge them. And sometimes, the doctor who finds you is the one who lost you first, ready to fight the world to bring you home.